So, what the doctors were trying to accomplish with the females was obviously back then it was all male doctors, but it was basically they were masturbating them or sexually stimulating the females, the women, and until they had an orgasm. But they couldn't even call it that, and so they called it a paroxysm. So what the doctors and the other health providers were doing was ultimately using vibrators to induce nervous paroxysm on the women. And so, and as I said, in extreme cases, if a parent had caught a young lady multiple times, then they would sometimes surgically intervene. With the boys, it was a little bit different, but in the latter half of the 19th century, they began to routinely circumcise babies, and this was done without any anesthesia, and at least in part to attempt to create a more negative association between the young child and their sex organ, to try to prevent masturbation. And there was similar stories about, what would happen to you if you, as a boy, were to masturbate. And the two of the people that were behind this, not only but certainly more famous, was a guy named Kellogg, believe it or not, and it is the Kellogg breakfast cereal guy, Kellogg's Corn Flakes. And so he was wealthy and politically connected and so forth. And he really pushed this idea that we have to stop masturbation. And he even had like an asylum that he had set up where people would come and receive treatment to stop masturbating, and it would involve in part just a horribly bland diet. And Kellogg's Corn Flakes was originally conceived of as part of that vegetarian bland diet. And another guy, C.W. Post, was also part of this same kind of cohort. And so you've heard of Post Toasties or Post Grape Nuts. And this was also, I guess, trying to make you so miserable that you wouldn't feel the need. So in the late 1800s, while women were being treated for hysteria, men were being circumcised, and this was just a very standard practice of the day. Kellogg believed that that masturbation would cause things like cancer of the womb, urinary diseases, impotence, insanity, mental and physical debility, dimness of vision, and moral corruption if you masturbated. And so is it any wonder that we have some of the hang-ups that we do on this particular topic? If somebody will remind me on Friday. By the way, our exam is scheduled on Friday in our same classroom, but rather than 1 o'clock, it's 11. If you'll remind me, I'll show you some of these absurd pictures of the early days of these devices. They're quite silly.